So in this video, we're going to be looking at where is the best place to macro and what's going to take the longest and what's going to take the shortest when you're macroing. So to keep some things in mind, the way I did this was I started out with doing an easy skill to macro that didn't take too long, just so that I could get an idea of the actual skill gains themselves, not particularly how long a certain skill would take. So obviously skills vary, and how long they take to level or to gain skill, but the point of this test was simply just to see the difference in the rate of gain. So this can most likely be applied to any skill. The timings that you see here in minutes won't be right, but what we're really mostly interested in is the differences. So, you know, if something's going to take 3 times longer as a skill to gain, then you can kind of look at this and see, okay, well, if I do it here, the percentage itself will be based like the same as these ones, but the time will be different. For this one, I only did animal lore from 0 to 60, just to kind of get that idea. And that's a very easy skill to gain, so that's why I chose that one in particular. So, the other thing to note is that I started out with none of the characters that were doing this having any skill previously in animal lore, except for this last one here, because I wanted to test like how much faster it actually was if you had the skill already. They were all full with food, so there is a idea that you'll actually gain better if you're full. I haven't tested that, but just to keep this consistent, I made sure that they were all full while they did it. And no power hours were used as well, because that was just another variable that will need to be tested eventually as well. Alright, so going on with that, we can kind of see the locations that we did here. So the first one was in the house, then there was the wilderness, there was in town, did it on a boat, and then kind of in the dungeon levels here. So I know these are common areas that you can go to in macro without any mobs that are going to wander into you and kill you. Now, of course, players might come and kill you, but that's a different story. So that's another thing you're going to have to consider, is if you're wanting to take that risk to get that better skill gain. The other thing to note is that when I did this test, Despise was actually the safe dungeon, and you can kind of see here that it clearly shows that it makes no difference if it's a safe or unsafe dungeon. They didn't factor that in when making this the safe dungeon, so you can gain at the same rate in the safe dungeon as you can any other dungeon. So let's take a look at that. So to start off with, I knew a house was going to be the slowest because it said that they have a decrease rate if you're gaining skills in your house that aren't related to crafting. So crafting ones are going to be not included in this, so things like blacksmithing or tailoring or alchemy, you can do those without worrying about it. And there's also a list on the wiki that shows which ones are exempt from this decrease. And so I use that kind of as a base here. And so anything past this is going to kind of show how much faster it is per. So if we look at the wilderness, that's going to be the second slowest one. And now I'm kind of convinced that actually these two, wilderness and town, are the same. Actually, I'm kind of convinced all 3 of these are the same. And these may just be just a small sample size variations. But just keep that in mind that I believe they're all going to be about twice as fast. I would say they're probably going to be around 100%. So twice as fast as doing it in your house. But there may be a small variation here with the boat. You can see that gives you a small bonus. But if I were to guess, they would all be around 100%. So that's the first thing to consider. The next thing we want to do is move into the dungeon. So we can see right here now there's a clear gap in time that it took once we started hitting that dungeon. So we're at 162%. So you can probably say that this Death Dart 2 is hitting it about 1.6 times faster than doing it in the wilderness. Just than doing it in your house. So maybe a 50%-ish bonus, 60%-ish bonus from doing it in the wilderness, town, or a boat. Which again is quite a big jump, you can see already. So obviously this is a great choice. Shame 4 is another one that you can go to that has very safe places to macro for PVE, of course. PvP is a different story. And you kind of see that increase is happening already. So now we're at 183%. So it's almost now twice as fast. And then Despise 5, again, you can kind of see that pattern of growing just slightly each time. So now we're sitting at almost twice as fast. And then the other thing to note is that if you are to take a skill down, so if you have, say, a skill at 100%, 100 skill already, and you take it down to 0, but then you decide you want to re-level it up, reskill it up, you're going to get a massive bonus in the how much it levels by. So you can kind of see here, we've basically dropped from 92 minutes to get to 60 animal lore to 49 minutes. So we're almost at roughly twice the speed. So we can take from that it's most likely that wherever you are, if you've had the skill previously, you're going to gain it twice as fast as you would. So that's really all there is to this. You can kind of see here that if you're willing to take the risk, you're going to get a massive bonus in skill gain if you do it in a dungeon. You're going to get kind of a base level with the wilderness to in-town boat of about one, like that's kind of like going to be your base level of 100%. And then if you're in your house, it's going to be about half the speed as doing it outside of town. So while the house is the safest, there's almost no reason to ever macro in your house because you can really just do it in town and do it right beside a guard or NPC that's not going to move. And anyone that tries to attack you or steal from you is going to die immediately because the NPC is going to call a guard. So other than using your house for macroing crafting, if you figure out a way to do that, there's no reason you should ever be doing it in there. You should always just be doing it in the town. And this kind of shows that the wilderness is not really a great place to ever macro just because you're not really gaining anything over the town. But what you are losing is the fact that if anyone comes up on you, they can just kill you and you're not going to be able to have the guards save you in that situation. And when you're AFK, that can be incredibly annoying because you may not come back for 8 hours or 10 hours. So if that's the case, I would definitely suggest doing it in town. And again, if you're willing to take that risk, you're going to get a massive bonus in the dungeon, but just be wary of the fact that a lot of people are likely going to try to mess with you and get you killed. But, you know, maybe you found a place that's nice and safe and you're convinced that you're not going to get attacked, then you're going to get a massive bonus if you do it. That's all there is to this. And I will add a power hour one. I'll check into that, but that's going to be a completely different test to see how much the actual power hour does.